everyone, and welcome back to the Calvin Tobin Show. I am your host, Calvin Tobin. Today we have a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it. All right, the College Football National Championship is finally here, and we have the TCU Horned Frogs who look to cap off their Cinderella story in holding that trophy held high above their heads. But here's the thing. They have to go through the reigning defending national champions, the Georgia Bulldogs, and the Georgia Bulldogs are looking to be the first team since the Alabama Crimson Tide back in 2011 and 2012 to win back-to-back national championships. And the other thing about the Georgia Bulldogs winning the national championship is that they are also looking to be the 8th team to as well win back-to-back national championships. Now, going into this game, TCU and Georgia both have some serious firepower on their offense, and especially on their defense based on what we saw back in the college football playoff. Now, what is there to look for in this game? First off, we have a QB battle between Max Duggan and Stetson Bennett. Both of these quarterbacks had phenomenal, dominant games against Michigan and Ohio State. And it's kind of a bummer because we don't get to see Michigan and Ohio State in the national championship, because who knows how crazy and ridiculously awesome it would have been to see the game as the national championship. But TCU and versus Georgia will be a great matchup as well. Now, alongside the QB battle, we also have some receiver battles going on as well. We have Quentin Johnson versus Brock Bowers and Arian Smith. And why do I say 1 versus 2 in this matter? Well, when it comes to TCU, they're a little bit in the struggle department because they don't have their entire full offense with them, and I'll get that into in a second. With Quentin Johnson, he went off against Michigan, and he made Michigan's defense look horrible because he had 163 yards and a touchdown on 6 catches against the Wolverines. Now, when it comes to Johnson, it's actually a bit of an issue that he will be the main weapon in this game for TCU, and not alongside Kendre Miller, because Kendre Miller tweaked his knee in the game versus Michigan, and that knocked him out of the game. So he is a bit questionable to play in the national championship versus Georgia. Now, with Georgia, they also have one guy that is going to go up against Quentin Johnson, and he is Keely Ringo, and he is going to be the difference maker on if Quentin Johnson is going to be a difference maker at all for TCU, because Keely Ringo is projected to go in the first round in the 2023 NFL Draft. Now, with Georgia, here's the thing. Their defense is actually a bit questionable when it comes to playing TCU in this game, because Michigan was a dominant team all year, and they made Ohio State look ridiculous, and Ohio State kept it close with Georgia in the college football playoff. And that's what I'm about to get to, is because with this part is that Georgia's defense was completely walked over. Even though that Georgia won, they could not stop Ohio State's offense no matter what. And TCU is in the same realm of what Ohio State did, and they're in that same realm because Michigan had one of the top defenses in the country, and TCU made Michigan look silly. Now here's the thing. Georgia also has some players to look out for on the defensive side of TCU as well. In the last game versus Ohio State, Arian Smith did have 129 yards and Kenny McIntosh did have 70 yards, but here's the thing. The two players that Georgia's offense has to look out for in this championship game is, for one, is Dylan Horton, who had the game of his life against Michigan as he had 4 sacks and a forced fumble in that game. And the other guy is Travius Hodges-Tomlinson, and he is right in the same realm as Keely Ringo as a top corner in all of football, because other than Keely Ringo, there's probably maybe 1 or 2 corners that you could possibly say that play better than Travius Hodges-Tomlinson all year long. So Hodges-Tomlinson is going to be covering Brock Bowers on sometimes, and he's going to be covering Arian Smith on some passes as well. So this is going to be an all-out battle between Georgia and TCU. Now, the national championship starts tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, and we have got a lot at stake because this is the game of the year. We are going to see who is going to be the top dog and who is going to hold that trophy held high above their heads and who is going to be going home as national champions. Now, my prediction for this game is I say the TCU Horned Frogs will beat the Georgia Bulldogs 40-35, and they will end their Cinderella season as champions. Now, another great team that we have witnessed all season long are the Boston Bruins, and they have been remarkably and unbelievably good all season long. And here's how it's been going down. For starters, like for how dominant that they have been, they're actually at the point where it's scary good, because right now they are 32-4-4, and last night was the latest example of how great they are as a team and how great they have been all year long. Is they played the Anaheim Ducks last night, and they absolutely demolished and destroyed the Ducks, beating them 7-1. And in this game, the Ducks had no chance, absolutely no chance to beat the Bruins, because the Bruins reminded how good the Ducks are actually, because the Ducks are before this game even started, they're coming off a back-to-back win against Dallas and San Jose, and so they're feeling good about themselves, but the Boston Bruins said, no, you're not that good. Watch us. Watch what we're going to do to you. And that's how the 7-1 score happened. And they averaged 2 goals per period. 2 in the first, 2 in the second. And they had their best period in the third period, getting 3 goals. Now, with the Ducks in this game, when looking like they had no chance, and which they didn't, their young star, Trevor Zegras, was lucky enough to help out the Ducks from keeping them from getting shut out by getting their first and only goal of the game, and it was towards the end of the first period. With how dominant the Boston Bruins were in this game, the offense obviously just as good as you'll ever see it, especially in history based on what's going on right now. But in this game, their defense was actually surprisingly just as good as their offense, especially on a 7-goal night. And you don't see that too often, because normally with the Ducks having 29 shots taken last night against the Bruins, normally when it comes to 29 shots, you would see maybe 7 to 10 blocked shots by them. But in this case, Boston had blocked 76% of Anaheim's shots. Like, Boston is just on another level. And now let me get into what that another level is. What they have done this season is actually on a historic pace right now. Because now, what is this historic pace, you may ask? Well, they are on pace to be the 4th team in NHL history to win 60 games in a season if they keep up what they're doing right now. And they are on a 4-game winning streak right now as well. Now, the other than the Bruins, if they get 60 wins, the 3 teams that did win 60 games throughout NHL history, the first team to ever do it was the Montreal Canadiens back in 1977. The next team to do it was the Detroit Red Wings back in 96. And then the Tampa Bay Lightning did it back in 2019, a few years ago. Now, the crazy thing is that the Bruins could win. Let's just say they keep up this pace at what they're winning right now. They could tie the record for 62 wins and possibly get a win or 2 more and get 63 or 64, because when the Tampa Bay Lightning got 62 wins back in 2019, their record was 33 8-2, and right now the Boston Bruins are 32-4-4. The Tampa Bay Lightning did play 3 extra games by this point in the season, but what is the Bruins record going to be within the next 3 games? They could have 35 wins. They could win 3 more in a row and look even scarier and get 7 wins in a row. But we'll see when that happens. But here's the main question of the Boston Bruins dominance. When it comes to history of teams winning 60 games in a season, one team has only done it, and that was the first team to ever win 60 games, and that was the Montreal Canadiens back in 1977, and they're the only team that has ever gotten it, because back in 96, when the Red Wings got 62 wins, they ended up losing in the conference finals, and then when the Lightning did it back in 2019 and got 62 wins as well, they ended up getting not only losing in the first round, they actually got swept, which is completely embarrassing when it comes to that kind of dominance. But that's the hardest thing to do, is how good is Boston going to be in the playoffs? Because you can have a historic season, but can you continue that dominance into the playoffs? Because history says that it's most likely not going to happen. But every year is different and every team is different. And as of right now, no one is able to stop the Boston Bruins. All right, that's the end of the Calvin Tobin Show. Please subscribe to my channel at Calvin Tobin Show so you don't miss out on any sports media. And please follow me on Instagram at Calvin Tobin Show so you don't miss out on any sports news whatsoever. And I'm out.